Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. This is going to be a real interesting story here. I just posted it on my Facebook, and I want to walk you through it here. The title is "The Famous Clayton Williams Plane Crash." Okay, and this is my homepage here. I've got a little story written out there, and then this picture, and then I broke it down here into sections, and so let's just do the bottom side because that's I copy and pasted and did it that way. So on the first one here, my home at 3802 Faircircle was in a small cul-de-sac of 9 homes that were built in the early 80s. Multiple people are now documented saying that $1 million underground homes are here, along with tunnels, and it looks like one of those is in my backyard based on Google Maps. This is where it's believed the famous and wild oil show parties were held, and where a young girl was murdered at in 2010 for refusing to prostitute, a party that had police there. Remains of a young girl were found outside of Midland in 2013. There's Crime Stoppers on this. Here's what I share this often, suggesting anybody sees this story, go to Google Maps, maps.google.com, put in my address, and then just look in my backyard. You'll see there's a large bunker building in my backyard, but you can't see it from above ground, And I got multiple people documented recordings, print screens, saying that there's tunnels and underground homes here, $1 million underground homes. And of course, I'm ambushed and shot by somebody under my home in 2012. Okay, but obviously, somebody that used to live in this small cul-de-sac on Faircircle knows something about these underground homes, tunnels, parties, murders, and crimes. Okay, and so using the resources like the Midland County Appraisal District, you just go online and look up the deed history, the past owners. And I built this little map. This is my cul-de-sac. These are the 9 homes. And here's the current owner, and then we go down. Before that, Mike Lawhon. He died here the week before the 2008 oil show started. He's married to Sarah. And they bought the home from Brandy Merrill, and she refinanced. And then you got Morris Kurt, a retired teacher, used to own this home. And then Randy Offenberger was the first owner of the home, and it was built by Tabor Construction, And so anyway, it's showing here that you can see I drew a line here, because Brandy marries Daniel Bryce, and they lived across the street at this home right here at 3809, and that's the home that the Suzanne's brother John LeGeron lived there. Suzanne was the is married to U.S. retired Congressman Mike Conaway, okay, and her husband died on the famous Clayton Williams plane crash, and that's what this is about. And of course, a lot more, names and it's on that list. It's a short list, basically, building that. Okay, so I was doing research in the previous owners of the homes on Faircircle, and I saw that the builder was a company was a now defunct company named Tabor Construction. Google showed me they had a listed address, 3217 Mark Lane. On a whim, I looked up the deed history for that home on Mark Lane, and to my great surprise, I saw where my ER doctor used to own the same house that the builders of my home owned. Okay, so I thought that was mighty coincidental and made me question if the ER doctor knew the builders of my home, knew my home was rigged, that there was an underground home in the backyard, etc. Okay, so this is Tabor Construction. You can see it, not in business no more. There was their address on 3217 Mark Lane. Forfeited existence, inactive date was in 2002. Vice President was Aaron Geibel, and he died on the famous Clayton Williams plane crash. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. And then over here, when I looked up the deed history on MidCAD for that home on 3217 Mark Lane, to my surprise, down here in the deed history, I saw where my ER doctor used to own the same home that Tabor Construction used to own, the builders of my home, which is mighty interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go on here. Come to find out, that ER doctor from the night that I was ambushed and shot was the brother-in-law of the ex-wife that I'd filed divorce on 5 days before the murder attempt. But I didn't know that at the time. She was the one that had told me the secret is a group of doctors are killing people for profit. But she didn't tell me her brother-in-law was a doctor. And it's now proven that x-rays were falsified on the night there that I was ambushed and shot. and he was at the hospital. Okay, this is where I testified in court on December 18, 2013, the protective order hearing, and under oath, and that I was told the secret is that a group of doctors killing people for profit. I'm not saying going to kill me for profit, killing people, killing man, woman, and child. I believed it then. I believe it now. I believe these serial killing doctors are a danger to you and your family. Okay. What she didn't say the entire time was her brother-in-law was a doctor. That was what came out in court. Okay. So anyways, I noticed that a vice president for Tabor Construction was a man named Aaron Gobble, and I learned that he died on the famous Clayton Williams Valentine's Day plane crash in 1990. This killed 5 executives and happened when the late billionaire oil man Clayton Williams was running for governor of Texas. Williams was ahead in the polls but lost this election to Ann Richards after making a famous gaffe where he said rape is like the weather. If you can't do anything about it, just lay back and enjoy it. Okay, so that's what I'm showing here. That vice president of Tabor Construction, the builder of my home, was Aaron Gobble. Okay, and he died on the Clayton Williams plane crash right here. Okay, and he was a director at Clandestine National Bank. Okay, I'm gonna show you Aaron Gobble, President Aaron Gobble Petroleum, etc. He was one of the 5 that died on this famous plane crash on Valentine's Day while Clayton Williams is running for governor of Texas, which is a big deal, right? Okay. Also died in there was Randy Kidwell, okay? And his widow, Suzanne, goes on to marry Mike Conaway, and it was her brother that lived across the street from my house before I moved here, the late John Lejeron. So you can see the connection. Interesting that Aaron Gobble died on that famous plane crash. Okay. Okay, the late Midland billionaire oil man Clayton Williams was running for governor of Texas. Williams was ahead in the polls, but lost this election to Ann Richards after making a famous gaffe where he said rape is like the weather. If you can't do anything about it, just lay back and enjoy it. And that one's on the New York Times, Clayton Williams, oil man whose gaffe cost him an election. And you can Google it and find that story. That's very famous. Another man that died on that same plane crash was Randy Kidwell, and his widow, Suzanne, went on to marry former U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway from Midland. Interestingly, Suzanne's late brother, John Lejeron, lived across the street from my home before I transferred into town as the next unsuspected victim right after Mike Lawhon had died. So this is the obituary for John Lejeron. And I just happened to find this, that where I'm looking people up, and I see here's Suzanne Conaway was his sister. Okay. And interestingly, right now, they had another sibling named Marsu Wilson, and right now the owner of that house is a William Wilson. I wonder if that home at 3809 Faircircle is still in the Conaway family. I wonder if Conaway didn't retire because of what's going on here with the underground homes, the parties, and all that. And I mean, I'm very seriously asking them questions. And so I just wanted to show you the 2 houses. Okay. The previous owner of my home, Mike Lawhon, is suspected of being murdered here the week before the 2008 oil show started. His late mother, Suzanne Tennis, and that's where one of the places he said he died at, that's where his death certificate says he died at, was in Fort Worth at her apartment. Used to work for Clayton Williams at his private club. And this was Suzanne Tennis right here. And it's showing where she used to work at the Plaza Club. And I think that was on the top level in Clandestine Plaza is where it was. I heard a lot of people around here tell stories about it. Congressman Conaway announced his surprise retirement on July 30th, 2019. And 2 weeks earlier, on July 17th, 2019, I made a video of concrete being poured behind my home. That's really important. This is showing when Conaway retired. Now, remember, Conaway married Suzanne. Suzanne's first husband died on the famous Clayton Williams plane crash, right? And her brother lived across the street from my house. And here in this neighborhood that has 4 underground homes, $1 million ground homes, tunnels, suspected parties, murders, etc. Okay, so anyways, but 2 weeks before he announced his retirement, concrete was poured, and I got it on camera, and that video went viral. Okay, and that's where I would think that was the real reason Conaway retired on July 30th. On July 17th, I made a video of concrete being poured behind my home. 2 weeks before that, on July 2nd, I had showed DHS, the Homeland Security, where I believed a tunnel was located. It was used for the oil show party murders. This was the same day that Vice President mysteriously turned around there flew back to Washington on this day that I met DHS behind the Home Depot store, which is behind my house. 2 weeks later, they dug up the ground and poured concrete there, and I got it on camera. And then 2 weeks later after that, Conaway announced his retirement, you know. And I want to show you what was provided. These are the old Google Earth maps. You could see where the tunnel was cut coming out of Home Depot, aimed directly at my house. And my backyard's one of them 4 homes. And I believe that's where the oil show parties was going. That's where that little girl was murdered at in 2010. And that they're pouring concrete to cover it up right there. And somehow I got a feeling that Conaway was connected to it. And that's why he resigned, you know, 2 weeks later. Okay. The day that I met DHS at the Home Depot store was the day that Vice President Pence mysteriously turned around in the air and flew back to Washington. Okay, made national news, right? Abruptly cancels New Hampshire trip, unspecified reason. July 2nd, 2019, the day that I met DHS at the Home Depot store. Actually, what happened that day, they wanted me to meet, and then they told me to wait, and I had to wait for a few hours, and then that's when this happened, when Pence flew back to Washington and all that, and then after that, then they said, okay, now we'll meet you at the Home Depot store, and that's where then they tried to talk me into moving and all the other, and I showed them, you know, where I believe the tunnel was at and all that. So here we go, and then this is just a, you know, famous quote. Oh, what a tangle web we weave when we practice to deceive. Because this is what this is, a convoluted mess. You know, homes rigged, you know, all over the country with this hidden access. It's a mess. 1987 is the year that I was told these $1 million underground safe houses were put in for the Bushes. And remember, in 1990s when that plane crash happened 3 years later, you know. But that's when I was told it was finished. And then here, the newest video, Bush Safe Houses. This is the woman that told me that she worked on that project, and it was finished in 1987 for the Bushes. Cost us $7.35 million. She named the people she worked with and everything on that recent video. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.